Hello, hello. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How is everybody doing today? Britt, I clicked on your picture because I didn't recognize you, and here you are. Hello, Melanie. Hi. How are you today? Thank you all for joining me at this time. I know it's a little bit later than usual, and also I'm sure it's perfect time for those who are called to join. So glad to see everybody coming in. If you care to say hello, if you're new here, please say hi in the chat if you'd like. Hi, Wendy. Nice to see you again, as always. Yeah, so we have a special topic for today, and it's September 1st here in Bali, and also in part of the US, Canada right now. So September 1st at 1 p.m., 1:01 p.m. Bali time, which is where I am right now. So I thought it would be a great time to schedule this live in particular for talking about sugar and relationship with sugar. We're on the first of the month here of September. So, but before we dive into our topic for today, we'll just give a little more time, and I might need to close my window as the road noise might interfere. And wherever you're joining from, glad to have you. I am streaming on 2 platforms. Super excited to be able to be doing that. Hi, Rhonda from Kansas. I'm sorry you're feeling sad, Britt, and glad that you are here. And also not just here, but also showing up and like saying hello and sharing that you feel sad and want to be in community. So it's showing up for yourself to do that, and just want to acknowledge that, and glad to be connected with you. Melanie, woo, sugar's your crack. Hi, Sonia. Oh, too many ginger chews. I remember those. That gives me a flashback to when I've eaten too many of those as well. Oh, I need to, put my phone on Do Not Disturb. So this is a talk that I give, occasionally. And as I said, I felt called to do it. And also because it's my 3 years sugar-free. So part of, the intention or the what's behind me doing this live right now is to celebrate my own sugar freedom of 3 years. I don't have an exact date. It was around August, September, 3 years ago that I gave it up one day at a time, hopefully for good. So I'm here to share how I did it, how I do it, how I continue to do that. And so if you're here, like even Melanie said, they know it's their crack, and Sonia, sugar and carbs, your kryptonite. Yeah. And I'm with you on all of those things. So if you already know that, then you'll leave with some a couple, like a place to go if you are ready. If you're ready to go sugar-free. If you're somebody who is unsure, not totally sold on the idea, maybe you don't have a problem with sugar, then this, or you think you don't, this may give you clarity that maybe you do, or it may give you clarity that you don't. But you're welcome here. So hi, Astrid. So however you're showing up in whatever capacity or from whatever way you are here, you're welcome. If you just want to be in community, as Britt said, you're also welcome as well. So a bit about me. If you are new, I would love to hear from you. If you're new to me, to Insight Timer, to Lives. Welcome, Christine from Germany. Good morning. Yes, we're at a time now to where some early European risers may be able to catch this live stream. But yeah, if you are new to me, I'll just briefly introduce myself. I am a spiritual life coach, Reiki master teacher, intuitive, and also I have a lifetime of recovery from addictions of various kinds. First time that I was in rehab at 17 years old for drugs. So yeah, I have had a lifetime of being in the realms of addiction, both active and in recovery. So I was, an active alcoholic and drug addict until I was 22 years old, and have been clean and sober ever since. And then since then, and also dealt with addictions in other areas. So I just shared it on my Facebook and Instagram story, this quote from the holistic psychologist on Instagram about addiction. So check that out, my story, and follow me there too if you like, and YouTube as well, where I also am live streaming from. And yeah, if you can check me out, you can find me everywhere if you want to set up a one-on-one or reach out and ask questions, get some support around something. Don't hesitate if you feel the heart call to connect. I look forward to supporting you in however way that looks. So Christine, you don't have a problem with it, but you be careful with your dose when using it. So that's a great point to bring in, and thank you for sharing that. We're all going to have our own experiences, and from where I'm coming from, I consider myself addicted to sugar. So how I can help people is if they also identify in the same way. So I can't give any advice or guidance on moderating sugar, because I can't do it. It's not possible for me. So if you got a way where you control it and you've been successful long term at that, not just successful, but successful in the long term, then great, keep doing what you're doing. But if you feel like sugar is your crack, sugar and carbs are your kryptonite, you've tried to manage it, you've tried to control it, you've done everything under the sun, and you're like, I just can't safely use it in any amount at all, then that's where I can come in and relate to you and give tips and tools and tricks and guidance. So Sonia's ready. Woo! Awesome. Hi, Gary. I am going to shut my window. I don't know how much difference it will make, and maybe I can only hear the noise, but hold on just for a second. The window's right here. that helps a little. So, and those of you that know me know about my various places I've been over the years in my lives, and the various cleaning and housekeeping people that sometimes have come in to provide spiritual teachings by interrupting the live. But the cleaning people, I've got it worked out. They've already come, so we're good with that. So I'd like to get a read from the group. If you are here because you are wanting to dive deeper into your relationship with sugar, maybe you're like, oh my gosh, it's past time, I should have quit 20 years ago. Or maybe you're like, I'm just starting to think maybe it's a problem for me. Or maybe you're like Christine, doesn't have a problem, but just being careful and the dose of it being important. Or maybe this is just totally new to you, but you're bored and tuning in because you can't sleep. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But you're all welcome wherever and however you are. So a few of you are admitting it's a problem and you're ready. Wow, Melanie says, a very powerful statement. It was easier to quit cocaine in the early 90s than sugar. Has anyone else had that experience? You know, I've done cocaine. I've never been addicted to it, but definitely addicted to alcohol and other drugs in the past. Yeah, it's definitely been a lot harder for me to quit sugar than alcohol and drugs. That's also been my experience. So if you've had a struggle with it, you're not alone, and you're in the right place, and it's not easy. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, so where I want to start is, well, first, if you don't already, I would love for you to follow me here on Insight Timer. If you care to give a donation, it's appreciated and welcomed. First, I want to dive into, like, I've kind of set the context for the conversation as far as, you know, where I'm coming from and the way I can help and share from is a place of the context of like it being an addiction. And what is addiction? Addiction means like wanting to stop something but can't. Does anybody else have any other definitions of addiction that might have some other elements? Another element would be, I think, like it progressively getting worse, not only not like wanting to stop but can't. Also, it's not just like you stay at the same amount of intake, that you need more and more and more, so it's progressive as well. And also part of that would be like the payoff of like the good feelings or the hit diminishes as the consequences get greater. So in the beginning, you might feel high, you might feel soothed, you might feel like your nervous system calms as a result, or you might feel a hit of energy. But then you need more and more of the substance, sugar, to give you that same hit. And because you need more and more, then you start to have consequences in the form of health problems or relationship problems or money problems. So Sonia also agrees, harder to quit than cocaine. Rhonda, sorry about your mom's passing and sugar being a crutch. Wow. And Melanie, Yeah, lots of cavities at 6 years old. So I would also like to ask you all here, like, what would be most helpful? What would you like to see? Like, what do you want to make sure that I talk about, that I address, that I cover? Or like, if you thinking about this for yourself, if you do think, oh my gosh, like I need to quit, or I'm beyond needing to quit, or I want to stop again, or like what's missing, and how can I help you in this talk, like help you to get where you need to go as much as that's possible in this space. You know, if that's answering questions or anything, giving suggestions. And two, if you want to talk about the possibility of having deeper support around this one-on-one, then reach out to me and we can talk about that possibility as well, because I do help people with that. And I'm also like a spiritual life coach, so it's not just about the sugar. I mean, it's really not about that at all, but yeah, so I bring in like a holistic picture. So yeah, so Britt, finding the right diet, sugars in so many foods, a common occurrence. So before we get in, and I will get into that, and I want to backtrack and kind of look at why do we, like, what it was like. So those of you from AA, the AA world, I'm from the AA world, you know, looking at what it was like, what happened, what it's like now. I don't want to tell my whole story, but what I want to talk about is what it was like what does it look like to have a relationship or with sugar that could be labeled as an addiction. And I also have some posts on my Facebook, on my blog, that really dive into this as well. And yeah, so, you know, what it was like for me was in the beginning, you know, so I was an alcoholic and drug addict, and also before that, a love addict. And so when I got clean and sober at 22, I hadn't really had I'm sure I had some disordered eating up until that point, but it wasn't until I quit smoking cigarettes. For me, this was the turning point. I was already clean and sober. I quit smoking cigarettes in September 2001, and I got into a new relationship with somebody that had a sugar and food issue. So it was like a perfect storm of getting into this, and I don't blame that person at all. It just was this natural unfolding of, oh, quitting cigarettes, oh, this person with these habits that I just naturally took on and fell into because we got into a serious relationship. And I see your comments, so I want to acknowledge that as well in the questions. So I just started taking part in eating the junky, sugary snacks with my boyfriend at the time. And it's just like consequence free, because it's like, oh yeah, I'll have some cookies. Sure, why not? But then it started growing. Then it started being every night. Then I started noticing cravings for it. And then, you know, weight started to come on and mood swings started to happen. So for me, kind of in September 2001 was kind of the beginning of a deeper experience with sugar being a problem, and then food in general, because I quit smoking. I mean, how many people here have quit smoking cigarettes and gained weight and started eating more? I mean, it's so common. So, but what ended up happening with me, because I could not moderate or control it, it became a have to in my day. How many of you is your sugar habit like a have to? And for me, there was so many cravings. How many of you have had cravings like sugar? It's a legitimate physical craving. So a couple people have talked about sugar being harder to quit than cocaine, and there's been research done that sugar is more addicting than cocaine in the brain, physically and legitimately, scientifically. So it would make sense that you would have that experience. So it causes this physical craving. Yeah, and appreciate everyone's comments and questions, experiences. So very quickly, within months, I was addicted to sugar. And I didn't see it. It kind of grew into, oh, this is a problem and I don't like it. It wasn't until I got involved with my ex-husband now, but this person I ended up marrying, which was not the boyfriend who I started the sugar eating with, but my ex-husband who we met in AA, and we both had the same thing. We both had this sugar thing, and so we decided we're going to quit together. And then even when we got married, this was a thing. But from the very beginning, when we were dating, we agreed, we're going to quit sugar together. How many of you have quit something with somebody else and then that doesn't go very well? Because somebody always relapses and then has to hide it or lie, and then it creates stress and problems. So then once we were married and the weight had really started to come on, I started to have health problems, hypoglycemia I'd never had before. The mood swings. How many of you can relate to mood swings? Like terrible, but it becomes normal. And then you just think this is normal. Like the sugar cravings, how many of you feel like, well, this is just normal? I swear to God, like even 10 years ago, I remember I was living in Seoul, South Korea at the time, and I was in the sugar, and it's just like, wake up and then the day goes on, craving, just this gnawing craving. It doesn't leave, it doesn't budge, it doesn't leave, it doesn't go away until it's satisfied with the intake of the drug, which is sugar. So Britt having cravings, and then we can think about what you can do about cravings in the moment, which is a different topic, but I would suggest EFT tapping. Even on my YouTube channel, I have a tapping video for cravings. So if that feels like something you want to check out. But yeah, some of my patterns were, especially when I was married, hiding the sugar, because I remember this period of time, my husband was off sugar. I was secretly on, but I was paranoid, and he's like, why are you're irritable, like you're angry. And then I was thinking, oh, like he knows, and then I remember hiding sweets in the car for him so he wouldn't find them. So my pattern would be, I would binge at night after, dinner would be a binge and then sugar after. And I'm not going to talk about like carbs and disordered eating with meals and food, because that's a bigger conversation. We're just sticking to like the narrow road of sugar right now. But 99% of the time, if somebody's got a sugar issue, there's a bigger issue. But for the sake of simplicity in this conversation, we're just sticking with sugar. So yeah, so that I would eat it every night. So I'm going to be a little specific just to give examples, although in 12-step programs like Overeaters Anonymous, they're very strict on you don't say the foods because you don't want to trigger anybody else. So if there's anybody here that is like, don't tell me what sugar you're talking about, please speak now. Otherwise, I'm going to say that. Yeah, because I would eat a pint of ice cream every night. And that used to be enough. Like earlier in the sugar addiction, that would be enough for me. But then that ceased being enough. And it was every night. I mean, how many calories is that? How much fat is that? My cholesterol was sky high. I was in my mid-30s, early and mid-30s. I have hypoglycemia. I'm, the heaviest I'd ever been, aside from being pregnant 8.5 months. High cholesterol, just not healthy. And the mood swings and the irritability and the cravings and the withdrawal and the secrets and the hiding. Then it progressed to, then I would get raw cookie dough and that would, because the ice cream was not enough. And that's, yeah. It was a shitty place to be. So if you're there right now, I can relate to you. My heart goes out to you. I know it's hard and difficult, and it sucks. And then not only everything I just said, but then the shame and the self-loathing. Like, how many of you then hate yourself for doing it because you know better, because maybe you were like me and it was years and years and years of trying to deal with this. Yeah. So, because it's like, in the beginning, for me at least, and maybe for some of you, it's like, oh, I mean, there's a little bit of maybe, oh, this is a bad habit. But then once it progresses, and then once you've tried to quit, like that first time, I've got to quit, I've got to give it up, and then you go back on your word. I actually did this last night, not with sugar, but I'm evolving in my own relationship with food. And I had told myself I'm not going to have this thing. And then I had the thing. And then, yeah, and then I noticed the letdown. I noticed that pattern of energy, of thoughts and energy of, why did you do that? It wasn't worth it. You shouldn't have done that. And just regretting it. Regretting having done it. Not feeling good. And then knowing, like, for my health, it's not good for my health. I mean, how many of you have real health problems that may or may not be as a result of sugar? Britt said pre-diabetic. And Melanie, what a powerful statement, losing the same 50, 60, 70 pounds over and over again. Yeah, I mean, that was me. I would yo-yo. And in my post I have pinned on my Facebook page, so read that. It's a really good one if this is resonating. But I would, before I was married, I would be like dating or on the prowl. I'm not really hungry. Get into a comfortable relationship. Then the weight goes up, the sex goes down. And then I'm eating to like substitute for the dis-ease in myself in the relationship and the comfortability. And then I'm just, I'm hating myself. I'm not comfortable. I'm eating more and more and just avoiding. I'm avoiding. So glad you're being compassionate, Rhonda. Christine, yes, fruit. So that question about fruit as sugar is a great one. Everyone's going to have a different way they interface with that because everybody's different. If somebody's had, on the extreme end of like a lot of disordered eating in life, maybe huge amounts of weight loss and gain, or even like surgeries and, having had a lot more consequences, somebody like that might not be able to tolerate having fruit, or maybe only the lowest sugar fruit like berries, or none at all. It just depends on the person. Some people who have not progressed to, a severe level may be able to have certain fruits or all fruits. So everybody's different with that. For me, I eat fruit. So I've kind of dug into some of the consequences, some of the way my life was unmanageable. I mean, at one point, I just was like, I can't stop this. And I tried so many things. How many of you have tried so many things? What all have you tried? And I did too. So many things. And I finally, at this point in my marriage, I remember I'll never forget, sitting down on my computer one day and like looking up inpatient rehabs or centers for sugar addiction or, eating disorders, and emailing them because I was at a loss. I'm like, I can't stop. I can't. It felt totally inaccessible to me. So I did have a couple periods of sobriety, sugar sobriety, within this period from like 2001 to 2020, which is how long I've dealt with that issue. One time I went almost 3 years. And then I got sick. I got the flu. And I justified to myself, I can have this mango sorbet. I mean, I'll always remember this thing too. I can have this because I have the flu and I'm sick and I don't feel good and my throat hurts and I need something to soothe my throat. And it's okay because I'm sick. I'll only do it this one time. How many of you have said that? And no, I didn't start eating sugar every day after that, but that was the beginning that led to, then the next time to justify it was easier. I don't remember the time after, but there was definitely a time after at some point. It may have even been months after, but at some point that next time, how many can relate to that with whatever you've ever quit, if it is a substance or anything? Have you gone a period of time, and then because you had a period of abstinence or, away from the thing, then you think you can handle it and you think it'll be different next time? So if you're not addicted to sugar, maybe it will be, but if you are, it will never be any different. So once an addict, always an addict. Sugar is a drug. Now, if we look at fruit in its natural form, that's not a drug, although it can be used as a drug. People can overeat watermelon and binge on that, so which is what makes sugar and food addiction difficult, because you have to eat. I have not drank alcohol since 1999. I have not smoked marijuana since 1999. But I've had to eat. And so, we're going to go into, okay, then what do I eat and how do I do that if we have to eat? But yeah, how many of you have, hi Donna, quit and then rewarded yourself, and then it's so hard to get back on the damn wagon? Like Britt said, they quit for 3 months. I don't know if you've tried to quit again yet, Britt. Yeah, Yeah, and then also, I mean, there's so many elements, and that's why, like, working one-on-one with people, we can dive into everyone's specific situation. Some people might be single, which is great. You can control what comes in your house. Some people might have toddlers that you have candy for, so there's so many different situations. But the good news is you can figure it out and you can handle it. The thing is that you've got to come to, are you doing this? Britt, today is day 1 off sugar. Woo! I love your declaration and commitment. So that's what is needed. So when we have a commitment and we make a decision, then it doesn't matter that there's a ton of candy, pastries, ice cream in the house from the husband, right? Because if our commitment is despite any circumstances. So that's a great point to bring in. So yeah. All right, just kind of regrouping for a minute. So what happened with me, just to kind of share, how did I get to where I am now, 3 years sugar-free? And of course, there's years of story in there, but the point is, I'd quit a couple times, I do things. I quit long-term, one time 6 months or a year, another time 2.5 years. Yeah, so Donna, you've missed the conversation, so maybe hearing it, or you can catch the live recorded if you would like, and my YouTube. So yeah. So what happened with me is it kept getting worse. And fast forward to, I'm living in Thailand. The pandemic is starting and happening. It didn't have anything to do with the pandemic. This is just what the timeline was for me. But I did a restrictive diet to reset my palate, to get off sugar, get healthy again. And part of that diet was no sugar, but I went back on the sugar. And so there was this period of a number of months where it was agony. It was agony of every day I'm desperately wanting to stop, and every day I'm eating sugar. And the cravings were overwhelming. It was just as bad as getting off alcohol, and I was an alcoholic. Or worse. It might have even been worse than getting off alcohol. But I would be in this period where, okay, I'd quit, and then I would be in the withdrawals, and then I would go back to the sugar. So I never got enough space to feel better, because I was stuck in this horrible loop of trying to quit land, which is terrible, because you're just in this fight every day, an agony every day. Every day I would wake up, today is day 1. It's gotta be, I can't do this anymore. I hate it. I think about last night, the night before, the binges that I had and how horrible I felt. And then I'd feel shitty physically because of what I ate. And I would believe it. So this lady that I work with in recovery, she was a drug addict, but she's like, if you gave me a lie detector test in the morning asking me if I was going to stay abstinent today and not use my drug of choice, I would have said I'm staying off of the drugs. The lie detector I would have passed a lie detector test. And yet she still ended up using that later that day. Like every day was like that. And that's how I was. every day I'd wake up, this is it. I believe it. I can do it. I've got to do it. I'm going to do it. And then I would eat, and today's day one. And then the cravings would start around mid-afternoon, and the little niggling voices would come. And then then my mind would be consumed. I wouldn't be able to think about anything else but going to the store and getting my fix. And I would just be obsessed. My mind would just be ruminating on being in that aisle and picking out that food. And so then I would end up going to do it and eat it, and then the whole cycle would start over again. So it was getting really dire. And so what I realized, and this is in my Facebook post and blog posts where I wrote about this story that I'm telling you now, I just had this moment of realization in the day when I'm like in the morning I was committed. I'm like, I'm doing this, I'm all in. And then at some point in the day, my commitment would go away because I would feel cravings and it would start feeling difficult. So then I gave up on my commitment. And I gave up on my decision from the morning. And in that subtle split second, it's almost unconscious, but because of all the spiritual work that I do and whatever, I had the consciousness to see it happening. And even Michael Singer, my man, my favorite talk of his talks about this, the intention and the commitment. And he talks about quitting drinking and smoking and AA and like the mechanics of what happens is, and that's exactly what happened. I had an intention and a commitment when I woke up in the morning that today is day one, I'm doing this. And then cravings would start and thoughts would start. And then it got hard. And then it was a conscious but almost subconscious choice of just like forgetting about that and being like, no, I would renege on my commitment. I would give up on my commitment in that moment. And because it's easier. It's easier. And it's like that moment where there's just a subtle shift. And even though like that would happen in mid-afternoon, I wouldn't go and get the sugar for hours because I'd still continue to try and fight it. But there would be a difference in my energy and there would be this shift where there would be some relief because I knew what I was going to do. Interesting, Donna. Yeah, so really this can be applied to anything that somebody has an addiction to. An addiction in the AA book, the big book, the book is called Alcoholics Anonymous. It says, if when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, or if once you start, you have little control over the amount you take, you're probably a sugar addict. If when you honestly want to, you can't quit entirely, or if once you start, you can't control the amount you take, you're probably addicted. So that could be for anything. So if you're to the place where you've tried, you've experimented, there's no denial there, you know, like this is a problem, and it might be chips, it might be carbs. And like I said, I'm keeping this really narrow and just sugar-based, but you could put, anything in that box as far as looking at the dynamics of what it is. So, what I noticed was that moment where I lost my commitment, or I gave up my commitment and my intention in the day, I lost my willingness. In the morning I was willing, and I prayed to God, source, higher power, universe, like, God, please help me to stop today. I want today to be day one. help me to do this, guide me. But then 2-3 p.m. comes on, and I'm starting to feel it and think it, and I wasn't willing anymore. I wasn't willing to continue to keep the door open for universe, for the help to come in. So I consciously shut the door on basically turning over my will in life over to higher power, which is step 3 in the 12 steps. I lost my willingness. Wow, Donna, you've been in denial. So I definitely would suggest you watch the replay of this, because there's a lot covered. So, so once I noticed this, then I could see it. I could see it in the day. I didn't quit immediately. So, Britt, as you continue on your day 1, congrats for that. That's amazing. Because, and if you are quitting, quitting whatever it is, like, congrats. And also, it's going to not be easy. I mean, if it was easy, I would have quit 20 years ago. You all would have quit whenever you first had an issue with it. It's going to be hard. But it's a short period of time where it's going to be this hard. I had a coaching client last year. We didn't connect about the sugar. Like, that's not why we coached together. But it just organically came up after a number of months in our coaching. And she saw she had an issue and wanted to change. And I remember it was maybe day 3 for her. And she was like, oh my gosh, is it going to be this way forever? It's so difficult. And I was like, I promise it will get better. I promise you it will get better. Although right now it feels like it's always going to be this way. So just remember that. And that's the benefit of having a coach too, somebody that can remind you of that. And yeah, Melanie, it's like the craving comes, then it's so easy to just give in to the craving. So it's not easy to do this stuff for everybody to be doing it. It took a level of desperation. I was so done. I mean, just all of it, the self-loathing, then just feeling the effects. Like, it felt icky and disgusting in my body. I was eating all these cookies, and like, I was living in Thailand at the time, and I was not near the fancy grocery store and even so, it's not America where they have any amazing thing you can want. Like, so I didn't get to have what I even really wanted. So I felt icky about that. Like, I'm eating lower quality junk food. And then I was eating chips with it. And then I was going back and like, this is the progression of the addiction. 15 years ago, it was 1 pint of ice cream every night, which is bad enough in itself. It had progressed to, and if the pints of ice cream were $10 for Ben and Jerry's, because it's Thailand, which is normal. So I'm like, I'm not paying. And besides, I didn't want to eat that anyway. I was like, not that bad. Like, not that bad. I wasn't to the point where I was back to the pints of ice cream. I was sticking with cookies, which I don't know, is it the lesser of 2 evils? But then I was wanting carbs after it, and salty, crunchy carbs. So then I was eating all these chips, and then I was eating more cookies. Like, it was only going to get worse. And then I was like, I remember talking to my sister, and I'm laughing. I'm like laughing hysterically, but I'm judging myself because I know I'm high. I know that I'm just high on these chemical drugs from the food. And so I'm like, I have too much self-awareness. Like, yeah, ugh, it's terrible. I don't ever want to be like that again. One day at a time. So that was where I was at. So when I started noticing that shift, that almost imperceptible shift, oh, I lost my willingness. I had willingness. I'm in, I'm doing this, I'm committed, I'm willing, I'm asking God for help. Like, then there was a moment I lost it. I lost the willingness. And then I closed the door on help. And then I wasn't willing to ask for help, and I didn't want help from higher power or anyone. So then I took my will back, and then I ate sugar. So I started praying for willingness. Like, sincerely, every morning, God, give me willingness to stop. Help me. Give me willingness. And one day I woke up willing, and I wish that I had some better like ABC step solution, but that's when grace and synchronicity and magic and universe comes in. But that's what happened. Where I showed up was I just was praying for willingness every day. And I woke up willing, and I'm like, I've something shifted. I've got to take advantage of this. I can't ignore this. Impulse is not going to be here forever. I need to seize it. And I did. And that became my day one that has led me here. So, like I said earlier, if you identify with what I'm saying, and you know you can't moderate or control or manage your sugar intake at all, then that's going to mean complete abstinence. And that's going to mean you're going to go through a period of withdrawal that's going to be really hard, depending on your level of sugar addiction. And it will pass. It's not going to be hard forever. But there will be a period of detox, and you get to, just rip the Band-Aid off. There's no better way. So if you're ready to rip the Band-Aid off, hydration. I mean, you're going to be detoxing, right? So that's, and we'll get into a bit of the physical things as we wrap this up. But before even the physical stuff is looking at desire, intention, and commitment. How bad do you want it? Do you really want this? Do you really want this, or is it just a should? And that's a really powerful question. Maybe you have pressure from the outside. I should, my husband says I need to lose weight. My doctor says, my kids say, I know I need to, but maybe inside you're just not there. It has to come from you. You have to have a burning desire that no matter what, like, I want this. Now, some of you may be able to start on the sugar-free journey from outward pressures, but ultimately, if you're going to be successful, it's got to be something that you want to do for yourself and by yourself because you want to do it. So if you have a burning desire, that will then create a powerful intention that I'm doing this. I want to be sugar-free, and then you go into commitment. I am sugar-free now. And not I'm going to be, but I am. The decision has been made. So the decision has been made is not based on circumstance. That's within you. So it doesn't matter about the circumstance. You'll figure it out. If you're committed, the circumstances will fall into place around the commitment. If you're not committed, the circumstances will then encroach on what you think is your decision, and then you will fall because, oh, but there's a birthday party this weekend. Oh, my birthday's tomorrow. Oh, blah, blah's birthday, Christmas, blah, blah. Things happening. No. None of that matters. If you're committed, you will make it work and you will make it happen no matter what. So do you see the difference? And that's a big shift. And if you're not ready, I get it. It's okay. So that, I've been there. If there's no willingness there, then there's no willingness there. So even that is empowering. Instead of being in a place of like, I need to quit, I should start tomorrow, I should get rid of everything, I should lose 20 pounds. If you really feel into it and you get honest with yourself and you're like, I want to be ready, but I just don't feel it. I don't have the motivation. Then at least own that. And then you can say, yeah, I'm not willing. And then when you eat the sugar, at least there might be a tiny layer of self-judgment that's gone, which is good. That's going to start shifting the energy of the whole circumstance. Because then you're at least like, instead of hating yourself as you're doing it and not wanting to do it, you're like giving yourself a sort of permission, in a sense. Now, it doesn't mean you might not need to like have some accountability like to yourself and get really honest. Like, okay, these are if I'm going to continue this, like how much longer am I going to do this? One of my favorite coaching questions is, if not now, when? So ask if you're finding yourself a little hesitant and say you have a history of quitting or having a problem, if not now, when? Thank you, Astrid, Dean, Melanie. Yeah. I'm glad this is helpful. So glad, Rhonda. So, Dean, if you care to share, what's the hesitancy? If you want support on that. So, these are all the dynamics that lead to actually quitting and stopping, right? So, I'm going to give you the first tip. You've got to figure out what's your drugs. What are your drug foods? And this is where we can expand outward and not just have it be sugar. It might, I'm pretty sure most people with a sugar addiction are going to have some carb issues too. And I definitely fall into that. But first, you want to figure out, what are your drugs? What's your crack specifically? What are the things you know you can't just have one? And not only can't just have one, you need to get really honest with yourself about like looking over a long period of time. Because we can get into denial that we can give something up and quit something, but then maybe we think we can manage it and control it because we did something short term, but we want to look at the long term. Have you been able to manage and control your intake consistently over a long period of time? And if you're an addict, the answer is no. But we can trick and fool ourselves into, well, I quit for this long, or I gave up this. But if you always go back, and if you always eventually end up back where you started and worse, then that tells you it doesn't matter how long, like if you've switched substances going from one to another, if you've, quit for a period of time, or maybe you did a certain diet, but then you get off the diet. Yeah, Dean. So willpower is a good topic, because we can't rely on willpower with addictions. Hi, Angela. Hi, Leanne. So Sonia's listing out their drug foods: chips, crackers, cookies, pies, cakes, Baby Ruths. I would expand that, Dean, to say any candy. Because can you eat Snickers successfully? I doubt it. So for me, my drug foods are ice cream, cake, cookies, candy, milkshakes, anything like that. Those are the no-brainers. Pies, yeah. So that's going to be, so this is where it is easy. And Britt brought in earlier, like sugar's in many things. And also, that one, so that's simple. You don't ever have to eat those things again. Yeah. That first bite, the one bite, you can't have just one bite. And yes, so also looking at anything that you treat as a drug. Are you eating for sustenance? And yes, to have some enjoyability. We don't want to eat straw and water. We don't want to go into other extremes. But the foods you binge on. Yeah, almond milk yogurt. Definitely. And I would imagine, does it have sugar in it? And sugar meaning any kind of added sweetener. So I pretty much, where I get sweets what I'm trying to say is, I eat fruit, I drink smoothies, I eat smoothie bowls, with fruit. There's even like a place you can get coconut yogurt with it, but I know that they put sugar in that coconut yogurt, so no, I can't have that. So Dean, maybe you missed the earlier part of the conversation where this is an individualized thing. We've got to figure out what works for us. And like on one extreme, some people can't have fruit. Or maybe they can have like raspberries and blackberries are, I think, the lowest sugar fruit. And of course it would be in a portioned out. So yeah, Angela, it sounds like, hard to go without your Dr. Pepper. It sounds like you don't want to go without it bad enough. And that, I don't know if you caught that part I just talked about a few minutes ago. Like, is it something we're just interested in, or are we committed to doing it? Or is it something I should quit because of all these reasons, but that doesn't mean I want to, or I'm ready, or I'm willing? Yes, also artificial sweeteners are considered sugar. They activate the same things in the body. I don't want to get into a bunch of science and get bogged into that right now, but yes, artificial sweeteners too. Now, again, when I start talking about what it looks like, there's going to be many people with many situations and circumstances. Somebody might find they can safely use a small amount of some sweetener here and there, but I don't suggest it. Because what do we need to make sweet? We don't need it. Yeah, need to make some changes. So I'm going to wrap up the live for now. If this was helpful and you haven't already, and thank you for those of my community that are always here, often here, love seeing you, love seeing everyone, new or returning. Please follow me if you don't. Join my group, Natalie's Healing Circle. We can use some energy in the group. I'm trying to create a space where people are engaging and want to engage, and so we can have that space to even talk about this stuff. And yeah, if you care to give a donation through here, you can. And you can follow me other places. You can see this whole thing recorded elsewhere. No worries. Yeah, so right when this is finished, it will be up on another platform. So yeah, just check my social media and you can find out everything you need to know. I'm glad this was helpful. Is there any last niggling comment, question somebody has? And you know, I've done a couple sugar-free challenges in the past. I know a number of you have joined, and I've loved having you, and I hope that those were helpful. I'm considering creating something new around this topic for people that want support, because you need support. You can't do this alone, FYI, which isn't I didn't get into that, but we need community, we need support in changing an addiction. But I'm considering creating something around being sugar-free, but also bringing in, the spiritual side, because that's my passion. And kind of bring it all together, which I kind of did here, but I don't know, I'm feeling into that. So if that's something that calls to you, let me know. Send me a message. Hi, Liz. Yeah, so the questions about specifics, I basically gave a disclaimer. Everyone's different. Some people can have something, some can't have others. I eat fruit. There's no fruit I don't eat. Of course, I do say, dry fruits with caution, or dates, that would be something to be cautionary with. But, there's 100 people in here. I don't like giving just blanket suggestions about which fruits, because you get to find your own. And also, if we were working one-on-one, then I would be able to have a conversation with you to help guide you in that. But just, I don't have enough information to be specific. Yeah. So thank you, Sonia, for the donation. So yes, hearing that some of you would want to do a challenge. So please reach out to me about that. Please reach out. And I will be going, oh my gosh, I just remembered. Well, I still will. I will be going live this weekend for Saturday Night Live, so please join me. And also, I haven't even scheduled the live yet, so I get to do that. Ooh, oh my gosh. Oh no, wait a minute, y'all. Saturday Night Live cannot happen because I didn't schedule it within 48 hours as Insight Timer requires. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I trust everything happens for a reason, but my apologies. I dropped the ball. I'm not perfect. Sonia, yeah, love your question. And you can contact me here in my teacher profile. Just click on my pic, and then there's like an about section, and then there's a link. Or you can just search Natalie Speakman online, and you can easily find me. And there's many ways to connect, like in whatever platform or way you choose to reach out one-on-one. Thank you, Melanie. Yes. You know, I'm just going to trust that because I have not, except when I was sick a few months ago and wasn't speaking, or if I was traveling, I have not missed a Saturday Night Live in like 2 years. So I'm going to give myself a pass and allow that. Because yeah, with Insight Timer, which I don't like that the way, but it is what it is. So you have to schedule it 48 hours ahead, and right now it's 2 p.m. here, so there's Saturday Night Live. It can't schedule it. But don't worry, I'll be back. I'll have live scheduled next week for the month of September. Will be so Saturday Night Live will be the following. And I might maybe I'll even do like a Monday or Tuesday Night Live so we can be in that same space. But I'll do that instead. So how's that? That's a fun compromise, or not even compromise, but yeah. I'll do a whatever, look at my schedule in a Monday, Tuesday, blah, blah, Night Live. So we'll all have it at the perfect time. Great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Much love. See you all soon. And good luck on your day ones. And also, you know, if you're just considering, then this is great for you to consider and think about this stuff for yourself too. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening until next time. Bye-bye.